All right, listeners, ready for another deep dive. This one's going to be right up the alley of all you military history buffs out there.
Definitely.
We're marching straight into ancient Rome, a period just full of legendary battles and emperors who really shaped the course of Europe.
Absolutely. And today we're focusing on a pivotal moment. The fall of the Julio-Claudian dynasty and the rise of Vespasian.
Yeah, this is the period that's crucial for understanding how Roman military power evolved
Yeah.
and, its impact on European history as we know it.
Right. It's fascinating.
It really is. And, it's easy to think of Roman emperors as these untouchable figures, but in reality, they were constantly battling for power and legitimacy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And nowhere is that more apparent than in the story of Nero's downfall. Now, we touched on the Great Fire of Rome and, his persecution of the Christians in a previous deep dive. But the cracks in his regime, they were already starting to show way before that.
Exactly. Nero, despite his efforts at damage control after the fire, he was already viewed with a lot of suspicion by many Romans, especially the Senate.
Oh, yeah. They weren't happy with him.
His extravagant lifestyle and what a lot of people saw as tyrannical tendencies, they didn't exactly make him popular.
Yeah, not exactly a recipe for a long and successful reign.
Right.
And that whole thing with the Domiceria, his palace built on land cleared by the fire,
Oh, yeah.
that definitely didn't help his image at all. It's like he was rubbing salt in the wound.
Yeah, definitely. And let's not forget the story of him burning a year's worth of cinnamon at his wife's funeral.
A whole year's worth. That's just insane even for a Roman emperor.
Well, it highlights just how disconnected he was from everyday Romans. Spices back then, they were incredibly valuable. Imagine a Roman soldier's annual salary. That's roughly what a pound of top-quality cinnamon cost.
Wow, so you've got Nero, this emperor, who seems more interested in luxury than leadership, and on the other side you've got the Senate, who are becoming increasingly frustrated with his actions.
And this frustration reached a boiling point when Nero made a move that directly threatened the Senate's power and wealth. He granted autonomy to the Greek provinces.
So wait, what's the big deal about that? Why was that such a problem for the Senate?
Well, the Senate, they got a big chunk of their income from managing these provinces. These were very prosperous provinces. So by granting them autonomy, Nero basically cut off their funding.
Ah, I see. So this wasn't just a symbolic gesture. This was a direct attack on the Senate's economic and political power.
Exactly, and it had serious consequences. The Senate felt threatened and marginalized, and they started plotting against Nero.
Oh, wow. Things were getting really dangerous for him.
Yes, there were multiple assassination attempts, and the relationship between the emperor and the ruling class just completely deteriorated.
It's almost like he walked right into a trap of his own making.
Historians call it the Tacitus trap, named after the Roman historian Tacitus, who witnessed this turbulent period. Basically, it describes a situation where a ruler's actions, even if they're well-intentioned, are met with such mistrust that it creates a vicious cycle and it hinders any progress.
So Nero's lavish spending, his disregard for the Senate, and this decision to grant autonomy to the Greek provinces, all of this contributed to this growing atmosphere of distrust and resentment.
Yes, and this toxic environment ultimately paved the way for Nero's downfall and set the stage for one of the most chaotic periods in Roman history, the year of the four emperors.
Oh man, that's a story for the ages.
Definitely.
We'll have to dive into that more after the break.
Absolutely. The year of the four emperors, 69 AD, a real turning point in Roman history.
Yeah, it sounds like something straight out of, a Hollywood movie, emperors rising and falling, legions clashing, and all this happening in just 1 year.
It was a wild time, really, a struggle for the soul of Rome.
For those of us who love military history, this period is just gold.
Yeah.
What were some of the key battles or, conflicts that shaped this crazy year?
Well, it all kicked off with a rebellion led by Vindex, a governor in Gaul.
Okay,
He had the backing of the Senate. They were done with Nero.
makes sense.
But Vindex's rebellion was crushed pretty quickly by forces still loyal to Nero.
So a failed rebellion, not exactly a great start for those hoping to see Nero overthrown.
True, but it set off a chain reaction. Another governor, Galba, sensed weakness in Nero's regime and joined the revolt.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting. Vindex was defeated and killed, and Galba, fearing for his own life, almost committed suicide.
Wow, talk about a close call. What stopped him?
At the last minute, a message arrived from Rome declaring Galba the new emperor.
Oh, wow.
Rumors of the rebellion's success had spread back to the capital.
I see.
Nero, thinking his reign was over, fled the city.
So it was like misinformation and panic that led to Nero's downfall.
Yeah, pretty much. Without the Praetorian Guard, his elite bodyguard Nero was powerless. The Senate saw their chance and quickly declared Galba emperor, even though he was still miles away in Hispania.
Wow, so what happened to Nero?
Oh, he met a tragic end, forced to commit suicide with the help of a servant.
Okay, so one emperor down a new one on his way to Rome. You'd think things would calm down a bit.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that's not the case.
You're right about that. Galba's reign was incredibly short-lived, and his downfall was partly due to his own mistakes.
Oh.
He hesitated in naming a successor, which created a power vacuum that his rivals were all too happy to exploit.
The age-old problem of succession.
It seems like even in ancient Rome, securing a smooth transition of power was a major challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
And this indecision was fatal for Galba. One of his subordinates, Otho, really wanted to be named heir. When Galba delayed and chose someone else, Otho revolted.
So we've gone from a rebellion against Nero to a revolt against the new emperor Galba. This year of the four emperors is living up to its name.
Absolutely, and the body count was rising. Otho's plan worked. Galba was murdered by a mob in the Roman Forum.
Oh, wow.
Otho declared himself emperor, but his victory was short-lived.
What happened? Did someone else challenge him?
Remember those legions stationed in Germania?
Yeah.
They felt their commander Vitellius was the rightful emperor. Vitellius, a smart strategist, promised them a big pay raise if they supported his march on Rome.
Classic tactic appealing to the soldier's self-interest. Some things never change.
Human nature is a constant, isn't it? So Vitellius, with the backing of his legions, marched on Rome. Otho realized he was outmatched and chose to take his own life rather than face defeat.
So Vitellius becomes the third emperor in this chaotic year. It's amazing how quickly the balance of power shifted.
But wait, there's more. Remember Vespasian?
The general who was suppressing the Jewish revolt in Judea.
Yeah. He was far away from the political turmoil, but he was about to enter the game.
Vespasian, the eventual founder of the Flavian dynasty, his entry into all this is fascinating. He wasn't directly involved in the initial revolts, so what made him decide to make his move on Rome?
Well, when news of Otho's suicide and Vitellius' rise reached him, he started getting visits from Roman nobles who had fled Vitellius' regime.
They didn't like Vitellius.
They saw Vespasian with his military experience and reputation as their best hope for restoring order.
They were looking for a strong leader, someone to unite the empire and end the infighting.
Exactly, and Vespasian saw his opportunity. While Vitellius was busy in Rome, Vespasian gathered his forces in the east, preparing for a showdown.
This is what gets military history buffs going. The clash of legions, the battle for the heart of an empire. What happened when Vespasian's forces finally met Vitellius' legions?
December of 69 AD, Vespasian's legions stormed Rome, and the city was plunged into chaos. Vitellius was killed in the fighting, marking the end of the year of the four emperors and the start of Vespasian's reign.
Four emperors, countless battles, and a whole lot of bloodshed. It's remarkable how much happened in just 1 year. But from this chaos, a new dynasty emerged, one that would change Rome in the course of European history. So Vespasian comes out of this crazy year as the new emperor of Rome, a military man leading a vast empire that's, in turmoil. What was his approach to ruling after all that chaos? Did he, try to crush any opposition with an iron fist?
Actually, he took a different path.
Oh.
He knew that force wouldn't be enough to stabilize the empire.
Right.
He needed to establish legitimacy, build trust, project an image of strength and competence.
Makes sense. After the year of the four emperors, I bet people were really craving stability and a return to normalcy.
Exactly. So Vespasian focused on building good relationships with the Senate,
Okay.
treating the lower classes fairly, demonstrating his commitment to restoring order and, prosperity.
So he was thinking long-term, trying to rebuild the foundations of Roman society, not just focusing on military power.
Yeah, and part of that was rebuilding Rome's finances, which had been drained by the Civil War.
Right, of course.
And this is where Vespasian's resourcefulness really shines.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How did he do it? Did he raise taxes?
Right.
Or sell off Roman treasures?
He did all that, but he also implemented a rather unusual tax.
Oh, is it?
A tax on urine.
Wait, a urine tax. You're
Yes,
kidding me,
I'm
right?
totally serious. Urine was collected from public toilets
Oh, wow.
and used as fertilizer, and Vespasian saw a way to make money from it. When his son Titus questioned this tax, Vespasian famously said, "Money has no smell."
That's a great story. It really shows his pragmatism, his willingness to think outside the box.
Yeah, it does. And, as with all Roman emperors, his rule came to an end. In 79 AD, Vespasian died.
Oh,
How? From diarrhea.
wow. What a way to go for an emperor who survived so much.
It is, but even in his final moments, he kept his sense of duty. He insisted on being propped up
Really?
and declared an emperor should die standing.
A fitting end for a soldier emperor. So his death marked the end of an era.
It did.
But his legacy lived on through his son Titus, who succeeded him. This smooth transition of power from father to son was rare in Roman history, wasn't it?
Very rare. It was really a testament to Vespasian's work to establish stability and create a lasting dynasty. It also shows how important it is not just win battles, but to secure peaceful succession to ensure the long-term stability of an empire.
It's a good point. So we've seen the fall of a dynasty, the rise of a new one, and the challenges of maintaining order in a vast empire. From Nero's excesses to Vespasian's pragmatism, we see that military strength is only one part of the equation.
Yeah, leaders need to be good politicians, savvy economic managers, and even have a little bit of luck to handle the complexities of power. Vespasian's story reminds us that empires are built not only on the battlefield, but through alliances, smart decisions, and a deep understanding of human nature.
This has been a really amazing deep dive into a pivotal period in Roman history. We saw how the fall of the Julio-Claudian dynasty led to Vespasian's rise, and how his reign shaped the course of the empire. It's a good reminder that even in chaos and bloodshed, strong leadership can emerge to restore order and create a new era.
And it leaves us with something to think about. Was the stability Vespasian created truly lasting? Did the Roman Empire learn from its past, or were the seeds of future turmoil already there? That's something for all of you history buffs to think about as you keep exploring this fascinating period.
Great point. Thanks for joining us on this journey into ancient Rome. We'll be back soon with more deep dives into the battles and figures that have shaped our world.